Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new
Archmer, Moopy Moop.
prolific experimental music producer, James Ferraro. He has a myriad of different albums under his belt at this point, covering a range of different styles, from the incredibly lo-fi rock stylings of Night Dolls with Hairspray to the vaporwave pinnacle of Far Side Virtual. And recently, with his newest releases, he's been indulging in some ambient pop, bedroom pop, as well as some alternative R&B like on NYC Hell at 3 a.m. I do want to say in retrospect, I do regret not giving a full shot to the album Sushi, which now that I really listened to it, it actually kind of passed me by the year it dropped in 2012. It is a pretty interesting experimental electronic music album that takes a lot of popular styles of electronic music and twists them into something very left field. But to this newest album over here, this record stylistically seems to be taking off from a lot of the R&B and pop music that Ferraro was playing with on his last record, except now he's giving us a bit of ambient music and like a bit of sound collage in here as well, especially with all of the samples taken from various news broadcasts, seems like during the 80s and the 90s, specifically stuff oriented around the OJ trial, the OJ arrest, as well as the Rodney King beating and the LA riots. Seems like Ferraro is trying to make some kind of statement here on the media, news, violence, especially on the song Sentinel Beast, where you can really read into the lyrics. I like the concept of this record. I like what Ferraro, it seems like what he's trying to say on this album, but as much as I give this record kudos for what it seems to be doing as far as the themes in this music, I have to say I don't like the music at all. It sounds like I'm listening to a bunch of badly mixed, badly performed soft rock music and pop from the 80s. Something that might have been the perfect soundtrack to sun-scorched LA days and steamy Miami nights, if not for the fact that it sounds like Ferraro just played all the instrumentation and edited all the instrumentation while drunk, because the instrumentation comes together so sloppily on this record in an overpowering way, to the point where it's like I feel claustrophobic with the music on this record. It's like each song is a slowly shrinking room and it's just freaking me out. Like on the song To Live and Die in LA, where for the duration of the entire track, I'm just waiting for the moments where the keyboards and the drums like line up and sync up in some kind of meaningful way. And then the guitar lead that's just kind of wailing away in the background sounds like it's practicing for the next track or something. Oddly enough, though, the various saxophone appearances that happen on this album sound pretty decent and actually add some drama to the very unkempt music. The vocals on top of this instrumentation a lot of the time are just singing out of key and bring absolutely no charisma whatsoever to the table. As a frontman on this album, Ferraro is absolutely drab to listen to, except for maybe a few moments on the album where he seems to be kind of delivering his vocals in this very whisper, quiet, somewhat sensual demeanor that I think is somewhat appealing, or at least more appealing than a lot of the vocals on the album. Again, everything about this album musically and instrumentally I just can't stand, and the idea of picking out moments that are actually bright spots on here is about as appealing as sticking my arms into a basket of rotten fruit to find the one piece of non-rotten fruit. Here's what I do like about the music and the instrumentation on this record. I like the tone of the instrumentation. I like the aesthetic of the instrumentation. It may sound really sloppy, and compositionally it may be really rudimentary and just not interesting or appealing at all, but I think the instrumentation has a really cool just timbre to it. It sounds like something out of the late 80s, early 90s. It sounds incredibly nostalgic. It's like I'm taking a time machine back. It's this artsy, moody, smoky, noir eerie version of the past. It's a dystopian past. I almost feel like this album should have not been an album, and it should have been some kind of art installation instead, with blown up photographs and projections set to James Ferraro doing poetry of the lyrics on this record, and all sorts of old televisions playing VHS loops of the news stories and clips kind of referenced on this album or something. So yeah, it's just kind of music's answer to the modern art installation, or maybe music's answer to the coffee table book, in that it's minimal, it's artsy, it's sleek, it's aesthetically pleasing, but I don't want to thumb through it for more than 15 minutes. And if there's another nice thing I can say about this record, is that I feel like it's unique. It's uniquely interesting in the way that it approaches its concept, but musically I think it's uniquely unbearable as well. Despite not enjoying this album overall, I certainly won't be forgetting it anytime soon, and I will say that a strong reaction like that from me might warrant at least checking it out. I would say at least check it out if anything I've described seems even mildly interesting to you. I'm feeling a decent strong 4 on this thing. Tran?
Listen, have you given this album a lesson? Oh yeah? That's cool. Forever.